that DC Compact Comics, they do not create new readers. If you want to create a new reader, put your money where your mouth is. Buy these. Buy a lot of them. Spend one half of your paycheck on these and give them away. If you care about new comic book readers, give these away. Why do we pretend, AKAPADers? Why do we pretend that we're reading comics? So, not too long on Twitter, DX, I just made a comment about these compact DC comics. And after making this comment, I was motivated by a dear friend. And we don't agree on everything. I'm not going to name names. He knows who he is. I make the observation that historically, this comic book format, collected editions in what we like to call digest size, well, this was attempted in the early 2000s, late 90s. Companies like Devil's Duo, Image Comics, Marvel Comics, they all went hard on this format. It was somewhat of an even Dreamwave Productions did. I believe it was Technor, Neo-Nor, Necro-Nor. That was the series that they put in the size. I make the observation, I'm sorry guys if you hear anything, Dallas is playing in a back box of scraps over there. I just make this observation that the comic book marketplace tried this before, and historically, the industry was at a height. Now, this is post-Image Comics boom, post-speculator boom, but people got back to reading comics during this time. We might want to say, in the early 2000s, was the last great era of reading comic books. This channel, the channel's character, we've evolved. We've went through a few different phases. And through our cartoonist kayfabe observations, through our Gem Mint collectibles observations and Comic Tom 101, I narrowed down the focus of this channel and a little bit of the voice and a little bit of the messaging of reading comics. We read comics here. No one reads new comics, and when I say no one, I'm speaking in the platitude there. Now, wholehearted, like in a collective sense, right? No one's reading the new comics. This is why every single book now has multiple covers. The content of the books, it's waning. It's less meaningful. And this kind of gets rolled back into the idea of these. Who are these for? Part of that tweet was it failed during a reader boom. And now everyone's posting about these. They're posting about Batman, Court of Owls Saga. They're posting that. They're posting Superman. You've been seeing a lot of Superman All-Star, but it's all over social media. And the counter observation was like, Peter, it gets people reading comics. Don't be a Debbie Downer. Don't be Mr. Hate. It doesn't. It does not. These DC compact books, and given we need data for this, but these DC compact books, they're just for the people who are already following the gospel, the people who already know the material. Now, given some of them might sell, like for example, I bought Far Sector here because I'm not familiar with it. So I'm going to read this. I'm going to read it for $10. believing that a $10 DC comic book edition can drive new readers and create new readers, and in some way the books sitting on the bookshelf will draw in new people. The day I bought those at my local Barnes & Noble, and thank God we have a local Barnes & Noble in Philly, because there was no way I was ordering these on Amazon. These were part of a day of beer garden hopping, day drinking, and I just have to say, I'm not crazy over IPA beers and that hoppy nonsense. Just give me a beer I can drink 30 of. These dumb, sophisticated flavors, and I say sophisticated because beer is not supposed to be sophisticated at all. I think people fake like those beers as much as people fake read comic books. Oh, we brought that into a circle. These comics are competing with young adult graphic novels. In my local Barnes & Noble, there was 2 giant displays of young adult graphic novels. Titles, artists, writers I never even heard of. We will call this the scholastic crowd. That's who's dominating the dollar, the eyeballs, and the intention, and the time it takes to read comics. This is what's dominating. And some of these books, they have a series up to 7 or 8 volumes, and I'm not even discussing the manga. The manga crowd right now is stemming from that. This leaves a giant vacuum for superhero comics. It's naive, it's disingenuous, and it's flat out uncritical, claiming that DC Compact Comics can create new readers. It might create 10 new readers, period. And then it comes to, what do we want from our reprints? What do we want from our formats? I had a whole stack here if I needed to hit the drawing table to further some of that point. I feel like we made it, and I know this is a little bit of a rant, and I know you guys, for this time frame, you guys expect some type of comic book review, comic book analysis, but I feel like this is a important point. And I bought these. I could have made this video without buying these, right? But I bought them to put my money where my mouth was. During the entire time, and I'll say at least 6 hours, because I bought these in the morning. Bought these in the morning, we hit one spot, then we go to the sushi conveyor place. We're there for, you know, they have alcohol. They have alcohol where they, a robot brings it out to you. It's an alcoholic's dream. The entire time I have these out, you know, we go back out, and, you know, a couple of our friends were asking me about these because they know who I am. But no one knew. No one knew. No one walked by and saw these sitting on the table. And we're talking really high traffic flow here. We're talking a lot of feet, a lot of eyeballs. I know it's not any type of realistic data. It's probably not even a realistic anecdote. But I thought it was peculiar that people just didn't care. And I think that's where we are with the American comic book, which is why we're cycling back around to the focus of this channel, where I don't know, it might get 10 effing views, but we kind of bust a nut at Malibu's Prime here. This is a reprint, and it's you know, it's the scale. It's not superhero fatigue, it's not anything. It's a epidemic of reading FOMO. There's zero FOMO in what you're missing out on by not reading American comics. I think some of YouTube is to blame. I think we have too many channels and they're far too popular just based on some of the views and analytics if you go into it. Far too popular that explain comic books. You don't have to read Watchmen. You can just watch a video on it. You don't have to read Cable here. You don't have to read about the first couple appearances of Rob Liefeld's Cable. Right, Louis Simonson, the co-creator of Cable. We don't have to read. And you might say, well, Pete, does this echo into other subjects? I feel like it does. I feel like these analysis, history, timeline, walkthroughs, let me explain it to you videos, I feel like they rob the experience of the FOMO, of the excitement of acquiring something. Even if you have to order it from Amazon and you have to wait, there's still, there's still an anticipation that builds there. I think all of these things. I think if someone makes a video on the life and death of Napoleon and it gets 10 million views, you're stealing books away. You're stealing books at that point. You're stealing people from getting the books, reading, acquiring the knowledge, being critical about it, and having that bleed into something else. DC compact comics don't create new readers because we're already in the decline of readership. If you don't believe that, just look at some of my comments. And I know people that know their stuff and interact with the channel. I'm grateful, and some of you do know your stuff, but we're in an age too where the comic book historian, the true comic book historian, not the people that know via Wikipedia, not the internet researchers, not the Redditors. We're talking the readers. We're in an age where even that individual, I would say individuals like myself, are dying off, and they're not rewarded at all. They're not rewarded with attention, adulation, and like any true historian, you're comfortable with that. Isn't that amazing? I go to some of the interviews a lot. Some of the Civil War historians on the Ken Burns Civil War. And I'm kind of like arguing against myself at this point, but in that documentary, which is I think 12 or 13 parts, and each episode is at least 2 hours, is right? These Civil War historians, some of them they look as old as the Civil War, and what they say, how they say it, and what their views are, where they can kind of encapsulate a lot of big moments very quickly. You can feel it off that documentary how much of a dying breed those people are, and then you kind of know the reality, right? Like they're going to die off, and we're not going to have any Civil War historians anymore. We're not going to have any Vietnam War historians, or the age of Nixon, or the even Obama. We're not going to have these critical thinkers around anymore. Comic books got killed by YouTube. It got killed by the internet. It got killed by fake enthusiasm, bad ideas, and poor analysis. And along the way, it de-incentivized people of knowing the material, reading comics, and not realizing some of the baseline truths of all of that, which we talk about on this channel. So guys, big rant here. I feel bad. I had a pile to further my point. Maybe we'll go into it a little bit deeper, but don't believe at all that DC compact comics, we'll put this in front for the thumbnail, that DC compact comics, they do not create new readers. If you want to create a new reader, put your money where your mouth is. Buy these. Buy a lot of them. Spend 1/2 of your paycheck on these and give them away. if you care about new comic book readers, give these away. That's how we do it. We don't do it by imagining consumer habits. We don't. Guys, thanks for sticking with me. Wow, long rant. Kind of gets you going early in the morning. Cheers. I have work to get to, by the way.